The scene was devastating. The lawn bore deep tire tracks, and the meticulously crafted flower bed, which was neatly outlined with red bricks before, now lay in disarray. The flowers that should have been in full bloom were tragically scattered across the ground. Their red and white petals were stained with soil, their beauty obliterated. Both my granddaughter Ally and I stood there, stunned by the sight. In the distance, I noticed the car parked in the backyard, the very car responsible for this chaos. The tire marks left no room for doubt. It was Macy's car that had wreaked havoc on our carefully tended garden. Macy is grinning and stepped out of the car. Her high heels crushed flower petals as she approached.
"What are you two doing here?"
she asked, feigning innocence.
"Isn't this the shortcut to the station?"
Terrible.
Allie's eyes were moist, but she still appealed to her in a small voice. Macy seemed to be satisfied with that, and she laughed out loud. What a terrible thing to do to her. I was furious. It was a flower bed that elementary school students spent hours and days completing. I felt like my head was boiling, and I think I was about to grab Macy at any moment. But when I saw the red petals scattered on the ground, I realized something. Maybe that flower is... I was convinced as I gently picked up the petals. Then I told Macy with the brightest smile I had ever done. "Thank you," I said. "You've taken care of the flowers for us." My name is Dora Brooke, and I'm 54 years old. My late husband and I raised our son, Tim. He's a responsible young man, working hard at a good company. About 10 years ago, Tim got married. His first wife was a straightforward, kind-hearted woman who helped around the house and kept me company. Although they lived a bit far from us,
"My husband is always on business trips and has so much free time."
While complaining, she would come to me and do the housework for me and be someone I could talk to. I grew to love her like a daughter. Soon, they had a daughter named Allie. Even as a young child, Allie would reach out to me with joy whenever we met. She was adorable beyond words. We believed our happiness would last forever. But life had hard plans. Tim's wife fell seriously ill shortly after giving birth. Despite a long battle, she passed away a few years ago. Why did such a bright, wonderful person have to leave us? In our grief, Ollie's smiles became our lifeline. Tim decided to raise Ally alone, determined not to dwell on sadness. I helped where I could, but I knew there were things only a mother could provide. During this time, Tim met Maisie, a coworker. She was 7 years younger, and her lively personality reminded him of his late wife. Maisie pursued Tim relentlessly, and eventually they remarried. She suggested living together, concerned about my well-being since my stroke. Although I appreciated her kindness, I knew firsthand the challenges of living with in-laws. Still, I agreed, grateful for her understanding. And so, Macy and I shared a roof. Allie liked her, and I looked forward to their happiness. But things didn't go smoothly. First, Macy had a spending habit. She used to live modestly, but after retiring, she splurged on cooking classes in ikebana, flower arranging. Expensive utensils and vases gathered dust in our storage. Sorry, but to me it just seemed like she was acting like an elegant young wife. Still, I didn't want to worsen our relationship as a mother-in-law, so I didn't intervene much. I had other concerns. Macy didn't seem to like the fact, that I had a physical disability. Since my stroke, my hands didn't function properly. She mocked me behind my back, complaining about my care. I heard her tell friends and classmates,
Taking care of my mother-in-law is exhausting.
She even treated Ally differently when I wasn't looking. Is something wrong, Allie? I'd ask.
No, Grandma.
But her forced smile worried me. Was this the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship? Thankfully, my concerns were mine alone. Ally and Tim cared for me, and Allie's interest in flowers became our bonding time. On a sunny Sunday, as I prepared for a doctor's appointment, Allie ran up to me.
Grandma,
She said,
I thought of a special gift to make you feel better.
Curious, I followed her outside. Allie seemed busy after school and late into the night. What was she up to? I wondered, and I spoke to her one night when the sun had already set and she was out in the garden. What are you doing? I asked. Allie seemed surprised by my sudden appearance, but blushed and replied,
I'm making a flower bed.
Perhaps influenced by my love for flowers. Even though she was just an elementary school student, the flower bed was taking shape well. Seeing Allie's efforts to cheer me up filled my heart with warmth. How fortunate I was to live with such a kind granddaughter. I eagerly awaited the day when the flower bed would be complete. However, it seemed that I wasn't the only one aware of Ollie's gardening project. Macy noticed Ally working in the garden after school and at night. When she asked about the reason for the flower bed, Macy praised Allie's wonderful act. At that moment, I realized that something was amiss. Yes, her eyes weren't smiling. I was horrified. I prayed that my intuition would prove me wrong. Despite my apprehensions, an incident occurred on the day the flower bed was finally finished. Ollie came to me on a sunny Sunday, her smile beaming. The flower bed was complete. Just as she was about to step outside, we heard a loud engine noise and crashing sounds. Ally and I stood frozen in fear inside the house. Finally, when the noise subsided, we cautiously opened the door to the garden. The scene was devastating. Tire tracks marred the lawn, and the carefully arranged brick flower bed was now a mess. The flowers that had bloomed inside were scattered on the ground, their red and white petals dirtied and devoid of beauty. Allie and I were both stunned by the sight. In the distance, we saw Macy's car parked in the backyard. The tire marks left no doubt that her car had caused the destruction. Mrs. Macy, what are you doing standing there? I asked. She's stepping out of her car with a smirk. She had intentionally driven her car into our garden. I now understood the depth of her animosity toward me and her disdain for Ally, her non-biological granddaughter. I recalled moments when Allie's belongings went missing or when she was scolded for minor pranks. Perhaps all those incidents were orchestrated by Macy, who despised Ally. Macy callously remarked,
These flowers are a nuisance, even when sent as a gift. You should be grateful.
She seemed oblivious to our distress, speaking words unbecoming of someone who practiced ikebana. I was furious, my anger boiling over. But Ally tugged at my sleeve, urging me to stop. Her tear-filled eyes pleaded with me.
Grandma, don't. I'm okay.
Her words snapped me back to reality. Despite the chaos around us, Allie's well-being was my priority. As I surveyed the scene, I noticed something. The scattered red petals. I recognized them. They were cyclamen flowers. Allie had chosen them for their beauty without knowing their unfortunate association with illness. Cyclamen, though visually appealing, were considered inappropriate for gifting to someone who was unwell. Macy hadn't realized this. "Thank you," I said, smiling more genuinely than ever. Macy stared at me, dumbfounded. She had expected anger, not gratitude. I continued, "You noticed they were cyclamen. You've taught me that even seemingly negative actions can have positive intentions." Macy's shocked expression remained as I picked up a cyclamen petal. Then, from the gate, someone unexpected arrived. A woman in a well-fitted kimono, exuding grace.
"Sensei!"
Macy stammered. The woman was her ikebana, flower arrangement. Teacher. She had witnessed the entire incident.
I was nearby and heard the loud noise. I rushed here and saw everything,
she said sternly. Macy's excuses didn't fall on her ears. The teacher continued,
I've known Mrs. Dora, my first and most dedicated student, for a long time. Mrs. Macy, you're no longer welcome in my class.
Huh?
Yes, the teacher is right. The Ikebana class I attended was exactly the same as Macy's class. I hadn't been there since the day I had my stroke, so it's only natural that Macy didn't know. I was the first person she taught when she opened her classroom. He is what is called the #1 disciple. My son's wife started attending such a class, so I secretly greeted her from behind the scenes. However, it seems that Macy did not have a good reputation among the students in the classroom. I heard that people who were initially envious of Macy's expensive gadgets, but got tired of Macy's constant bragging about her and left her. The teacher had visited our house several times to ask how Macy was doing. Macy often went out during the day, so I guess they hadn't met each other until now. At that time, she said she saw Allie making a flower bed.
Oh, maybe you are making a flower bed.
Yeah, it's because my grandma loves flowers. I am doing my best to keep her healthy.
The teacher was moved by her appearance and offered her advice several times. Apparently, she hadn't even asked about the types of flowers he was planning to plant, but while he was reminiscing about that time, the conversation between Macy and the flower arrangement teacher continued.
No, there are deep reasons behind this.
Macy tried to make excuses, but her usual arrogance likely left no one willing to listen. Macy's humiliation was evident. She had underestimated her, who was also my teacher. The teacher's stern.
Those who can't cherish family are not welcome in my class.
Is echoed in her mind. Macy's punishment was swift. But my concern remained with Ally, who bore the emotional scars of this incident. Fortunately, Ollie now wears a calmer expression than before. She nods when I suggest, "It's very unfortunate. But shall we rebuild the flower bed, maybe this time?" Grandma can join in too. When I say that, Allie nods stiffly. After the teacher bows gracefully and leaves, we return home. Soon rumors spread throughout the neighborhood that Macy has been expelled from the Ikebana class. Since it's the same group, even the cooking class instructor got wind of the incident. Apparently, they've also told her she needn't come back, understandably so. She destroyed her stepdaughter's flower bed out of spite, and as a result, insulted the Ikebana teacher's arrangement. The whole story of her expulsion has become widely known. When Tim returned from his business trip, he must have heard the rumors too. He questioned Ally and me, learning the truth from the teacher. That's when he discovered how Macy had mistreated us daily. She verbally abused Ally and confiscated the allowances and New Year's money I gave her. No wonder Ally always seemed uncomfortable at home. And upon further investigation, it turned out Macy had even canceled Ally Educational Insurance without permission. She'd also been using the funds for her own hobbies and luxury items. Tim felt deeply troubled by the trouble Macy caused us. Simultaneously, he was furious at her behavior.
We're getting a divorce. How could she do this to Ally and you? I'll sue her.
He demanded a divorce from Macy, seeking compensation for the misused money and the emotional distress Ally and I suffered. Facing divorce and claims for damages, Macy realized she had no chance of winning. Tearfully, she begged for forgiveness from Ally and me. Ally cowered behind Tim, clearly frightened. As for me, forgiving Macy, who had ruined her granddaughter's feelings, seemed impossible. I'm sorry, but I can't find it in my heart to forgive you. Macy was divorced and had to leave the house. On top of that, she had to take on debt to pay the damages. Her own parents disowned her for meddling in our affairs, leaving her no choice but to repay the debt herself. Given her past extravagant lifestyle, she must be going through a tough time. Later, it turns out, Macy had harbored ambitions of becoming a full-time housewife. That's why she approached Tim, who had money despite his age. Even after she started working, she seemed to cause trouble wherever she went. I know this because she came to our house, pleading for reconciliation and sharing her situation. Losing job after job, drowning in debt, and feeling cornered, she was far from the elegant young lady she used to be. The incessant doorbell ringing during the day exhausted Ally and me. We had to call the police each time Macy showed up, and it seemed we might have to take legal action again. To prevent further interference from Macy, we sold the house and moved. Tim felt deeply remorseful for not noticing Macy's ill intentions while he was away on business trips. He also requested a transfer to a remote, which was gladly accepted by the understanding upper management. He was thrilled to spend more time with Ally.
While a mother's presence is important, I've realized I need to be more involved with Ally.
Exactly. Ollie's smile is the best proof. I agreed. Spending time with Tim, who had been away so often, Ollie's smiles increased. Perhaps due to my daily rehabilitation efforts or the increased time with my son and granddaughter, the after effects of my stroke were gradually improving. The hospital staff was impressed with my progress. When I shared the good news with Ally and Tim, they jumped for joy. Now Ally and I tend to the seasonal flowers in the newly rebuilt flower bed at our new home. I teach her the meaning behind each flower. When Tim has time, he joins us in gardening. Occasionally, the ikebana teacher, who still helps us fend off Macy's interference, invites Ally to participate in classes. She believes Ally, with her genuine care for others, is well suited for ikebana. Flowers and ikebana have the power to bring happiness to those who see them. Certainly, they're fitting for a granddaughter who cares about her family. Ally herself is eager to try ikebana. Tim is already enthusiastic about arranging the details. And once my hand move improves a bit more, I might even return to ikebana. I look forward to practicing with Ally. Despite the challenges ahead, may be filled with challenges, but I pray that this peaceful life with Tim and Ally continues. Ally says,
Grandma, the flowers have bloomed.
And the flowers in the flower bed sway gently in response. How was this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.